So yesterday I released a video announcing a huge move coming for Tesla stock. Now this was based off the premise of the economic data that we were getting early this morning, which was the initial jobless claims along with the CPI report. Now initially we did see Tesla stock and the overall market push upwards as we did get some positive data from the initial jobless claims showing that the labor market is softening up a bit, and alongside with that, seeing that the CPI report today came in a little bit cooler than expected. However, after the initial push up, we did see that both Tesla stock and the overall S&P 500 ended up trending downwards for the day, with Tesla stock also getting some bad press today with the bad news that it's under investigation for a fatal crash for a Tesla that was suspected of running on autopilot. And so although this news wasn't the underlying reason why we saw Tesla stock and the overall market pretty much fall down for the day, this bad news still is somewhat significant simply because in the last earnings call we heard that Elon Musk mentioned something about being at the end of the year seeing much more progress when it comes to FSD. But news like this also kind of fades the optimism for individuals who are seeing, that FSD is going to have more improvement. So in this video, I want to go ahead and just talk about what's currently going on with the overall markets and also identify some points with Tesla that we absolutely want to pay attention to. However, before we go ahead and hop into my laptop, I also want you guys to remember that there is a free link in the description below to check out the weekly newsletter that I put out every single week. Simply put in your email and you'll be able to get access to my weekly newsletter so that you guys can get updated to what's going on in the overall markets. But with that said, let's hop into my laptop. Alrighty, so we are officially in my laptop taking a look at Tesla stock now. One of the things I've been saying exclusively to the Push and Profit private group and then later on publicly on YouTube is that I'm still very bearish on Tesla in the short term. In fact, if we go to a weekly view, you could even go to a daily view, we've been still selling off aggressively. Ever since the earnings, we've been pretty much trending downwards. And so I've been pretty much bearish. Now, in yesterday's video, I said, hey, I think there's going to be a positive move up if we have some positive data from the CPI and then again, the initial jobless claims, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video. And we did indeed see some positive movements up. In fact, if we go ahead and measure it, we don't even have to measure from the pre-market when the data came out with the obviously with the economic data. Let's go ahead and just measure it only just from the opening of the day, right? So from the opening to the day to the peak, we did move up 2.68%, which was great. A lot of the individuals that are part of the Push and Profit private group were able to take advantage of trades going upwards, and then we also took advantage of some trades going downwards as we had the shape. I would say this is like the upside down V move downwards, right? There's no letter that's this sharp. I mean, I guess you could say it's half an M. But anyways, we ended up consolidating, right? Let's go ahead and take a look at the SPY, the S&P 500 Index ETF. Same thing. We ended up pushing upwards, right, in the morning after we had that positive data, and then we ended up trending downwards. Now, something that's a bit concerning is that we actually closed in the S&P 500 lower than the day before, right? If we actually zoom in, we closed at around $445 today, and yesterday for the S&P 500, we closed at around $446. So it's still a red day. I know it's not that big of a movement, right? But it's still a red day. And so we've been closing lower and lower. If you see, we closed lower than this day. And then, of course, this day, we closed lower than this day. And this day, we closed lower than this day. So we're seeing these, repeated days of selling off. Now, what's going on tomorrow? Well, one of the things we have to be aware of is that tomorrow is Friday, right? And what does that mean? Well, one of the things I often say, just exclusively to the Push and Profit private group, but I've also, I believe I made a video about this publicly on YouTube, is that Fridays tend to have a lot of action, right? There's a lot of volatility happening on Friday, right? Why is that? Well, there's a lot of movements in regards to the overall market. Short sellers may end up covering their positions as they don't want to have that exposure over the weekend. Or inversely, we have individuals who are long who may just sell off their position. So naturally, Friday is a big volatile day. But this Friday is also special as well. What do we have coming for tomorrow, right? Well, we have the PPI coming out. Now, the PPI doesn't get as much recognition as the CPI, right? And it's just, something that's not commonly known, but it's still something that's important to watch out for, right? I often say that the PPI is like the leading indicator for inflation. And so for those that are unaware, let's go ahead and, really quickly break down what the PPI is. So the PPI measures the average change in the selling prices for domestically produced goods and services, right? So unlike the CPI, which measures price changes for the consumer's perspective, the PPI looks at the wholesaler level, right? However, changes in the PPI could be a precursor to changes in the overall consumer inflation, right? Because if producers are paying more for goods, they might pass those costs on to consumers, right? And so a rising PPI may indicate inflationary pressures, while a falling PPI may signal deflationary pressures. And so although it's not commonly looked at when it comes to, people or market participants looking into the market, it's still something that we want to pay attention to. It always comes right after the CPI. So every time the CPI comes out, you want to look for the day after with the PPI. So we have Friday being just naturally a volatile day, and then we have the report coming out tomorrow. And so, today's report with the CPI, although it came in a bit cooler than expected, there were some concerns, right? There was definitely some concerns. It wasn't like the best report out there. And so what we really want to pay attention to is obviously what producers are paying, right? And so we're going to want to see what ends up happening. If we do have some good data coming out with the PPI, perhaps we could continue moving upwards. But I still believe that this movement upwards is very temporary, right? I don't think this is a long trend upwards. I don't think Tesla stock is going to, just start making all-time highs again. We have a long way to go for that to happen, in fact, right? In fact, one of the things we want to pay attention to looking at Tesla from a technical perspective is, and I highlighted this copious amounts of times on the channel, is this descending trend line where we continuously are getting rejected around here, right? And so before we could even think about all-time highs, we have to first even see if Tesla breaks above this descending trend line, which right now is just completely diverging from, right? Now, in addition to that, some of you guys have mentioned it in previous videos. I haven't talked about it that much, but if you go to a daily time frame, right, we have a gap right around over here. If we take a look at, let's go ahead and zoom in around this area at 235, right? And so why is it important to pay attention to the gap? So it's not mandatory that it always happens, but oftentimes when a stock has a big move up, now this could be for several reasons. The last time we had a gap, it was because of the delivery numbers for Tesla, and we saw that Tesla moved up, and then after the earnings, it filled that gap. Typically, it's not, again, mandatory that it happens, but we often do see stocks retrace and fill these gaps. And so what some of you guys have commented in previous videos is that you guys also are I guess, bearish on Tesla in the short term as well, believing that Tesla is going to fill this gap. And that's absolutely a possibility that could happen. In fact, if we take a look at this gap, if we do have bad data tomorrow, right, and we see continued selling pressure, we could absolutely see Tesla fall down, especially as there's very little volume relative to price, which is different from your traditional volume relative to time. And so if there's selling pressure, we could quickly fall down and fill this gap. And that puts us at a very unique area. So why do I say that? Well, one of the things I've been saying over and over again is that I want to pay attention to Tesla as we get to these, early $200 levels. Why? Well, I say that's an area where there's lots of volume relative to price, and so that's where we see the most consolidation, right? Because there's a lot of trading going on, a lot of buying and selling, and so we see sideways movement. And then when we look at the early $200 levels, we see that that's areas where it was a resistance in the past, it was a support in the past, and so if Tesla does fall down to this area, that's a key level that we absolutely want to take a look into, because we want to see, well, is Tesla going to break below here? Because that would indicate, well, there's more selling going to go on. Or we want to see if Tesla's going to touch this area and bounce up. Is it guaranteed that Tesla's going to fall down to this area? Absolutely not. And I've mentioned it, video after video about Tesla falling down to these levels and wanting to pay attention to it. And I've gotten comments of individuals kind of saying that it's very unlikely that Tesla could fall down to the low 200s. But at the same time, we've seen a lot of selling going on for Tesla. In fact, as soon as we got rejected, we pretty much already saw Tesla, if we go down to the bottom, already falling down 18%. And so if you really think about it, we're halfway there. Another 18%. Let's even just do it from where we're currently at. Another, I mean, 14% would just bring us down to this low $200 levels, right? And so we're not too far from where I've been saying I want to see what happens with Tesla. In fact, if we do continue to see more selling pressure, well, we end up being in this area where there's little volume relative to price. And so that means if there's selling pressure, that's going to push down the order books, and we could see it quickly move down and fill this area, right? And so something I've been saying. Now, if we do see a bounce up from here, I'll go ahead and, this is just what I'm doing personally. You guys should always trade or invest in whatever you guys see value in. Do not copy what anyone else is doing online, not what Kathy Wood is doing, not what, I don't know, what I'm doing, what anyone is doing. You should only trade and invest in whatever you see value in. Now, if you agree with some of the things I say and you see value in, then by all means, go ahead and do what you see is best for you, right? But, if we do see Tesla bounce up from this area, me personally, I'm going to go ahead and want to add into my long-term portfolio, as I do have exposure to Tesla in my long-term portfolio. I've said that, and one of the things I've said is, yeah, I'm bearish on Tesla in the short term, but it doesn't mean that I'm, bearish on the long term. I think right now things are getting obviously tougher, right? And the main concern is going to be, are the Feds going to hike in September? Now, there's a 90% chance that they won't, or that's what the market is pricing in. However, what we're going to want to pay attention to is not only the PPI data, but pretty soon, I don't know the exact date. I'll go ahead and update you guys as soon as I can and do a video on it. But we're going to have Jerome Powell do the annual Jackson Hole meeting, where we're going to have some additional commentary from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, and that will kind of give us more of an idea of what is kind of going on in the minds of the Feds. And so that's something that we also want to pay attention to, right? Because obviously monetary policy plays a huge role in what takes place in the overall markets. This is why I say you want to look at the overall picture. You want to look at economic data, monetary policy, fiscal policy, right? One thing with fiscal policy, I won't go too much deeper, but we just had President Joe Biden propose additional, just send the idea that, lost for the words over here, just insinuating that maybe we perhaps should send more billions of dollars to Ukraine. And so that's a big concern, because obviously one of the issues with the United States is we recently just got downgraded as far as one of the credit rating agencies, I can't speak today, mentioned, obviously there's an issue with the spending of the United States and its obligations to pay its debt. And so that's going to be interesting to watch as well, because, that perhaps could cause more selling pressure if it does get approved that the United States is going to send another package to Ukraine. Of course, there was other additional things or details in that proposal that Joe Biden made. I believe some of it was for economic disasters, for the unfortunate situations going on right now. So, yeah, definitely. But one of the things I say is that you want to pay attention to everything going on, and fiscal policy, monetary policy, economic data, of course, the technicals, and then the fundamentals. Right now, we don't have any fundamental or any updated fundamental data right now for Tesla. We're gonna have to watch out for the delivery numbers when they eventually do come out, and then of course what we see from Q3 earnings. But in the meantime, I held this bearish stance. You guys could disagree with me. That's completely fine. I think if you guys want to leave a comment in the comment section below on how you disagree with me, just please be polite. There's no need to be upset. I think sometimes, being that I do cover Tesla a lot, we have a lot of individuals that may watch the channel and may hate the fact that I am, bearish on Tesla in the short term. But you have to, you can't have this one-sided view. You have to be very agile in regard to the overall market. Even if you're investing long term, right? You can't just assume the market is bullish forever. There's going to be periods where there's downtrends, right? It's fine. If I'm bullish long term, I think, right now what we're seeing with Tesla is just some downtrends. But I mean, I think eventually we're still going to continue seeing this upward trend when we zoom out for Tesla. It's just right now, things are not doing too well. But I want to keep this video very short, sweet, and concise. I don't want to extend my stay over here on this video. So let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on Tesla? What are your thoughts on the overall market, or any other comments that you guys have? And with that said, guys, consider watching this video right over here, where I talk about what are the best days to trade in the overall markets. And I'll see you guys on that next video right over here. Take care, guys.